just up to you and Brian, you and I to make this things go smoothly today. So,
well, one complicating factor, Mr. Chair, is that I have to leave at 9:30.
Well, then we should get going. So welcome, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I will have the adoption of the agenda recommendation that the agenda for September 1st, 2020, Township of Wellington North Recreation Parks and Leisure Committee meeting be accepted and passed. Brian, if you don't mind moving that, I suppose I could second that, and we'll be away. All in favor? We're good. I do not have any pecuniary interest, Deputy Mayor?
Nope.
Okay, great. Thank you. The minutes of the previous meeting are there. We don't need any resolution for that. The business arising from the minutes you'll see in your agenda as well. Any questions or comments about that? I have none. Any of the staff have any questions or business arising from the minutes? Hearing none, we'll move on and we'll go right into the trails, the verbal report from Matt, our Director of Operations. Take it over, Matt. Thank you.
No, thank you, Chair McCabe, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, the verbal report for the trails is really in our budget for rec this year. We had about $50,000 for trails related items. So just wanted to share with this group that staff's intent is to spend about half of that money on the Mount Forest pedestrian bridge, and then half of that money in the Arthur Trail system related to placing some stone dust in the Arthur Trail system. So that's kind of what our intentions are. I think as staff, we feel very comfortable proceeding with that, but yeah, had the opportunity to share that with committee, and if there are any concerns, staff would be can answer any questions. We did have the engineer on site in the last month just to look at that pedestrian bridge and kind of make a prioritized list for us. What we're waiting for is pricing from one of our vendors on doing that work. But that's kind of what our intention is. And yeah, like I say, staff is willing to answer any questions if there's questions associated with any of that.
Deputy Mayor, do you have any questions at all?
Just one question. The pedestrian bridge, Matt, I presume the highest priority would be safety?
Yeah, through you, Chair McCabe. So I think what they're planning on doing is placing steel beams under that bridge. Seems to have been built in different times and sort of different sections. So the priority thing would be to place some steel beams under it to solidify the deck structure. But yeah, safety, yeah, when the engineer reviews it, that's their primary focus. Last year, our assessment said 55,000. We've tried to say we have some money this year to work forward or to work on that. But also, I guess the beams that they're going to have to install, they're probably going to have to go into the river to install them. So, you know, if it comes out, we want them to install all the beams that need to be installed from the river this year. But we need to see the price of that, I guess, before I can comment more intelligently on kind of how that looks. But that's the intent.
Okay, thank you.
I would imagine SVCA would have to be a little bit involved just for that if we're going into the river and doing some construction over the river, Matt?
Yep, we would for sure consult with them before anything happens, absolutely.
Okay, all right. And I imagine, like you said, there'll be a prioritized list, so if we can put the beams maybe in this year and then look at doing something later, you know, next year and so on and so forth.
Correct.
All right, great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Great. On to the next one. I have a recommendation that, excuse me, that the Rec and Parks and Leisure Committee receive for information report RPL 2020-017 being a report on the Con Pavilion and Playground. And I will pass this over to which one of you want to go? Mandy or which one would, Mandy, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, thanks. to you, Chair McCabe. So on July 7th, we had brought forward a report on the Con Playground. Following that discussion, staff performed some additional ground maintenance at Con. That included the baseball diamond and the playground area. So with support from the Roads Division, additional sand was brought in from the Township pit for the playground, and stone dust was purchased from the Murray Group for the baseball diamond. I met on site last night with the Con Volunteer Committee, and that was Jocelyn, Margie, Diane, and Shelley. And we discussed the way that their committee currently supports the Township and runs the Con Pavilion. And some of the discussions that we had were on the playground equipment. So they were satisfied that if the slide needed to be removed or the rocking horse needed to be removed as through trying to fix it, they were okay with that. They did mention that they have some dollars in their bank accounts still left over from their fundraising initiatives, and they would be interested in putting in one piece of playground equipment. I said that we could likely support them with sourcing from distributor what that equipment might be, and leave that up to them. Currently, the Township is responsible for testing the water, the porta potty rental, lawn maintenance, playground, and baseball maintenance as well. In the springtime, this committee goes in and they do a complete clean out of the pavilion and get it prepared for the summer rentals.
Perfect. I imagine it follows like the Con Playground will follow all of our guidelines for opening and having people congregate and stuff like that as well. So nice to have a spot for them to go that's kind of dressed up a little bit more. I didn't have a chance to get out there yesterday, but I might slide out there this afternoon and have a quick peek at it.
Great.
So thank you for that. So we have a recommendation on the floor. I guess I will move it, and I'll ask Brian if you can second it. All in favor? Thank you very much. And on to the next item is our PL 2020-016, the community ice cream cone hunt. And I have a recommendation that the Rec and Parks and Leisure Committee receive for information report our PL 2020-016 being a report on the ice cream cone hunt. So I will give it back to you, Mandy.
Sure. Thank you, Chair McCabe. So on July 23rd, 2020, the Township launched the community ice cream cone hunt throughout all of Wellington North. It was a lot of fun. We promoted it on our social media accounts through Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as on 88.7 The River. In total, we had 16 cones around the community at various recreation amenities, including Con, Damascus, Kenilworth, Mount Forest, and Arthur. The Township, we did partner with Mark Apparel, who created the cones for us, the Ice Cream Cone Company in Arthur, and the Old Hound in Mount Forest, which is where everyone was able to go and claim their cones. And on August 18th, we were able to end that program because most of our cones had been found. Participants were asked to post pictures of themselves to their social media accounts with the hashtags Life is Sweet and Simply Explore Wellington North. And once they completed that step, we asked that they sent us an email just confirming the names of all of the participants so we could add them to the list at the business. A result of the hunt was that many explored our trail systems, played at our playgrounds, and enjoyed relaxing parks, some for the very first time. And in addition, the Township saw positive uptake on from various citizens, including families, teens, adults, grandparents, children, and of course our furry friends too. Just some fun quotes that I included in here was one from Katrina C. Our kids participated in the ice cream cone hunt. We had a fabulous day. Thank you for organizing this event. Our kids had a great time exploring all the parks and trails and enjoyed a lot of them for the very first time. We decided to make a day out of it and find all 14. So it was a fairly inexpensive activity, but the community was highly engaged. It promoted physical activity and it promoted all of our recreation amenities.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I've heard that it was well received, and excuse me, I believe, if I can remember correctly, it was pretty good weather as well. So go ahead, Brian, and then I'll go to you, Matt.
Just one quick question. How did you keep the ice cream from melting?
Well, they were fortunately just coroplast signs that were stuck to trees, but the ice cream themselves, so basically once somebody participated, then we added them to the list at the Ice Cream Cone Company in Arthur or the Old Hound in Mount Forest. and they could just go in and claim their one scoop from there.
Very good. No, I thought it was a great idea, and it turned out very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Matt?
Yeah, through you, Chair McCabe, I would just echo what committee member Milne said, as far as it was a great idea and it worked really well. And yeah, Mandy deserves all the credit as it relates to it. She had support from the rec team, but it was her brainchild, so it was good and it was fun, and yeah, lots of positive feedback on that. So kudos to Mandy for spearheading that.
Thank you.
I will echo that sentiment as well, Matt, and hopefully this isn't the last time we do this. And I also want to thank the Old Hound and Ice Cream in Arthur for joining and partnering with us. So a lot of fun for the whole community. Any other questions or comments from anyone? All in favor? Perfect. Thank you very much. So now we're going to go to our deputation, and this is kind of an exciting thing, I think, in my mind, and it's nice to have this brought forward. So I will welcome Cheryl Spencer to the floor. It's all yours, Cheryl. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your deputation this morning. Please go ahead. I think you're on mute.
All right, how's that? Better?
There we go. Good morning.
All right, I'll get my video going too. There. Good morning, Chair McCabe and Deputy Mayor Millen and staff and others. So if you've read my deputation, a couple of years ago I came across this story in a book in the Mount Forest Library about a meeting between Charles Rankin, the surveyor who put the road through here, and Chief James Nawash. And I've thought for, ever since I found that story, I thought it was just really, really interesting. And I especially kind of cling to the image of Chief Nawash walking, to here from Thornbury to help his friend to, get the road through. And as I mentioned in my deputation, it's an example of the, how history is recorded, and often we kind of forget the stories that involve the Indigenous peoples in our history. So I just think we have a real opportunity here to some way acknowledge this story publicly by doing something. I kind of imagine this meeting happening near Murphy Park, and whenever my congregation gathers down there, I tell that story. And they really appreciate knowing it. So I think others would as well. But as I said also in my deputation, I think it, however this proceeds, it does need to be in consultation with the Chippewas of Nawash, because as we're learning more and more, there are two or more, many sides to every story. And so I think it would be interesting to have their participation and see what is honorable to them in commemorating this story as well.
I completely agree with you, Cheryl. Excuse me. And I think to hear the original, and I would say first story of our area should actually come from the Chippewa of Nawash as well. Matt Aston and I and Mandy were chatting about this as well, and I think if we can involve the federal government as well as the provincial government, I think a collaboration of recognizing the excuse me the Indigenous history here in our area would be first and foremost. Brian, it looked like you were going to say something as well.
I just wondered. Yep, thanks, Cheryl. I wholeheartedly agree with your idea. I think the First Nations definitely need more recognition of the history in our area. I'm wondering, is there any other First Nations that might potentially be involved?
I think that's a great question, Brian. Sorry, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I'd like to see if we could get staff to do some research in conjunction with Kate Rowley from the archives in Mount Forest, and see if there's any other historical like with the federal government or in conjunction with our MP, John Nader or Randy Pettipies, to see if we can dig up some more, just and to your point, to see if there's any other nations that would be, First Nations that would be involved in this area.
There's also the Saugeen First Nation, and I believe that there's a relationship between them and the Chippewas of Nawash. Chief James Nawash was relocated to Cape Croker, which is where the Chippewas of Nawash are, and so that's why I suggested that that partnership.
All right. Mike, I see you're attending. Do we need direction to staff, or is that kind of enough of a push in the right direction to get this ball rolling, so to speak? Because I'd like to find out all the information that we can on this and get it historically as accurate as possible, and then move forward together.
Yeah, Councillor McCabe. Yeah, I think what has been discussed, the idea of contacting Kate and Kate Rowley, who's obviously got access to a lot of historical information, is kind of a first step, while also engaging the MP's office is probably a reasonable approach. So maybe that could be reflected in the minutes, that there's direction for staff to pursue those meetings.
Okay, that's perfect. Thanks. I know. I think Mandy is and Kate and I are meeting tomorrow quickly at 9:30, so that might be an opportunity to address this with Kate right away.
If I might, Mr. Chair, the reason I ask if there's other First Nations that are involved or were involved is my own experience is that first contact and colonialism, it's a very sensitive topic with a lot of First Nations, and I wouldn't want to see any of them missed. And of course, their communities are very intertwined, and so you know, you don't have to go too far to the east till you run into the Haldeman Tract and the Six Nations of the Grand. Perhaps they may have some input. I don't know, but I think the notion of contacting the various First Nations and asking their opinions would be well served to this purpose.
I agree. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions or comments, Cheryl? While we still have you on board here.
I'm just really appreciative that you're very receptive to this, and I'm pretty excited about the direction this is taking.
Well, I thank you for bringing this forward, because it's always neat when you find out where your town or your community started and how it was named, and even the Saugeen River being named. Like, I had no idea. I had a pretty good idea, but I didn't know it was as spelled out as it was. So I thank you for that very much.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions from staff or Brian? All right. Well, thank you very much, Cheryl, for joining us this morning, and I hope you'll be impressed by hopefully how we can get this moving with the MP's office and the other nations that surround us. So thanks very much again.
Okay.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Moving on to the ad hoc committee updates. I don't know if Councillor Burke is on with us, but I have a recommendation that the Recreation, Parks and Leisure Committee of the Township of Wellington North receive the minutes of the Mount Forest Aquatics Ad Hoc Advisory Committee meeting held on August 11th, 2020. So I'll pass that over to you, Matt, as I don't think Councillor Burke is with us.
Yep. Yeah, so thank you, Chair McCabe. And yeah, the minutes are presented. There was a meeting where we didn't meet quorum earlier in August, but we ended up having a very good meeting August 25th, I think it was. So staff attended, and staff would be willing to answer any questions related to those minutes.
I guess I have one quick one, excuse me, with regards to the landscape plan, signage, and tree planting. And thanks for the maps that were included in the agenda for that. Do we have an inventory of the land that is available for planting, and how do you see that kind of progressing if we get a big influx of people wanting to plant trees? Like it'll be on municipal property, but how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, through you, Chair McCabe, I think kind of staff was tasked with bringing back a report to the ad hoc committee as it relates to memorial trees or trees in general being a fundraising opportunity, maybe similar to the seat sale at the arenas. And the report that's later in this agenda is really just to identify some locations that would make sense for those types of trees. But I think staff has identified some locations that would make sense for trees, and the logistics as far as how that looks from a donation perspective is still on staff's plate to bring a report forward that would go into that ad hoc committee, but ultimately filter up into this committee. And then a subsequent comment I would say is that I think that ad hoc committee understands that their role is really the fundraising arm of the project, which is a good thing.
Great, thank you for that, Matt, and I agree with you. Are they looking to, sorry to put you on the spot, are they looking to, I guess, band with a community service group for this, or?
Yeah, I don't know if we have 100% visibility on that right now. I think what their intent is they're hoping to do a grand opening to the splash pad in 2021. That's something that they had hoped to do in 2020, but given the current constraints, that's not an option. And I think they're hoping that grand opening for the splash pad serves as a kickoff or a springboard for the pool fundraiser, which again, I think is right in line with kind of where we see that committee participating for the project. But as far as, I guess, specifically if the Lions what the Lions role is going to be in the pool fundraising, I don't have good visibility on that right now, and I can't comment.
Okay, no, thank you. I just thought I would see if they, I imagine there would be some collaboration along the way, so.
Yep.
Deputy Mayor, any questions? Any comments from staff? All right, I have that recommendation on the, or that resolution on the floor, so all in favor? Thank you for that. And we'll move right back to you. I guess we don't, well, we have to go through this, but we've talked about it a little bit already, but I have a recommendation that the Rec and Parks and Leisure Committee of the Township of Wellington North receive the minutes of the Mount Forest Aquatics Ad Hoc Advisory Committee meeting held on August 25th. I guess I'll go back to you. I don't know if there's any more to add aside from the areas kind of that you looked at, and then we can do a quick verbal update of Arthur BMX Park and then the Lions blacksmith shop as well. Matt, thanks.
Yep, thanks, Chair McCabe. Yes, so the August 11th meeting really, I guess, officially didn't happen. So my previous comments reflected the conversation at the August 25th meeting as well.
Okay. Is there really any big verbal update about Lions or the Arthur skate park, or?
Not from me, Chair McCabe.
Okay, all righty. Well, I have that recommendation on that. Sorry, is there any other questions regarding item 17? I have none as well, so all in favor, Brian? Away we go. Thank you for that. And again, I guess we'll go to a report, and Matt, I guess you're up again, and I have a recommendation that the Rec, Parks and Leisure Committee receive for information report RPL 2020-013, being a report on approved location for memorial trees. And further, that committee recommend the council, the Township of Wellington North, approve the proposed locations for the memorial trees as presented in Schedule A. So I'll leave it up to you, Matt.
Yep, thank you, Chair McCabe. Sort of the reason this report is before you is just to provide staff with some direction as it relates to appropriate locations for memorial trees, which are something that is slightly different than we've previously talked about. You know, the Mount Forest Ad Hoc Aquatics Committee might be looking at tree planting as a fundraising opportunity. I think these locations would ultimately, would filter well into that program as well. But staff gets approached fairly often, or it seems more often, related to trees. And the hope with this report is to get some approved locations that staff have kind of vetted for appropriate locations for trees. And I think staff's comment to people who would want to plant outside of these locations would be if it's on rec property, then they should come through this committee. But what this will do is sort of streamline the process as far as give staff some backing as it relates to these locations have sort of been pre-vetted. Otherwise staff is open to answering questions on that report, but that's kind of the intent of the report.
Thank you, Matt. Deputy Mayor, do you have any questions or comments?
Just one question, and I don't know whether you've got to this point or not, but have you had any discussions on appropriate types of trees that may be considered? Not everybody may want to plant a maple tree, for instance, but anyway, yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Chair McCabe. I think Tom would love to chime in on this too, but you know, carnivorous trees we really like as far as they don't shed leaves. We have left that a little open-ended but I think with the donation policy related to trees, there might be more commentary with regards to staff. I think, and Tom can chime in if I'm incorrect, these locations were deemed though that I think a maple tree wouldn't be out of the question because we could handle leaves. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see deciduous trees in locations like splash pads and that potentially give us issues as it relates to the concrete and future maintenance.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I have one question, and maybe we're not that far down the road yet, Matt. Will people want little plaques to say like this is in memory of whoever at the base of the tree, or?
Yep. Yeah, I think so. And that's all part and parcel to the conversation, to the donation conversation. And when we have sort of dealt with memorial trees in the past, typically the people who are coming forward to want to plant the memorial tree they have incurred all the expenses related to it. So yeah, I think you'll see that detailed as part of that memorial tree or that donation type tree report.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, great, thank you. All in favor? Thank you, Brian. We will move on to our PL 2020-019 COVID-19 update number 2. I have a recommendation that the Rec and Parks and Leisure Committee receive for information report RPL 2020-019 being a report on COVID-19. Over to you, Matt.
Yep. Thank you, Chair McCabe. In this instance, I'll probably let the report speak to itself. If there are any questions, staff is available, and the ice time or the arena, I think we still don't have good visibility on the user groups in our area and an appropriate date. Our date has slid a couple weeks, but ultimately we're working with our user groups because we want to put ice in at an optimal time. Otherwise, the report has just kind of given a synopsis of how COVID-19 has impacted the rec team and the rec facilities.
I would think, yes, go ahead, Brian.
Just a question related to the ice time, Matt. Do you have any sense of a sort of a minimum number of hours a week that you would need committed by the user groups before you'd consider putting the ice?
May I take that, Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to defer it to Tom.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Chair McCabe. What we're trying to do is get our minor sports groups going first, but they all have to get okay or approval from their officials, whether it be the OHF or the Skate Canada. So once they're on board, and I know the minor hockey in Mount Forest has applied, I believe, they were sending something out late last week for access to get it back on the ice. Arthur is working on it right now. So we want to try and do what's right for those groups and get the minor sports groups on the ice before our adult groups or public skating or anything else. They're our biggest customers and they should have first dibs at our ice. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Milne.
Sorry, my internet's a little wonky here this morning, so I didn't hear very much of that. But what I was after was, did you say, do you have a minimum number of hours of ice time committed? Did you mention?
I didn't put an hours, but it will be our major user groups, and that'll be our minor sports groups, which take up the most of our time. Our adult groups, we're going to leave off. I think if we get the ice going for October 1st, we'll probably leave the adult sports groups off of the ice for that first month, and then let minor sports do what they need to do and make sure we're comfortable with them. They're comfortable with all our new regulations. So it'll be about 30 hours per week is what we're probably looking at, a minimum.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that question, and thanks, Tom. I just see the trails, and I had talked to a community member about, and I'm going to probably go ahead and talk to Mark Apparel about doing some signage for some of the trails in our community as well. So I haven't yet to have that conversation, but it's amazing how well they're being used. Talking to Jack, especially in Arthur has been pretty well used, which is great throughout all of this. There's not too many other places to go to, and being out in the open is great. Just with the vandalism there, it's disappointing to see that, and especially because it's in splash pads. It's where little kids are. And has there been any discussion on what we're going to do there? Are we just going to put a garbage can up instead, and how much damage was done? Like, is it completely written off? Go ahead, Matt.
Yep. Thanks, Chair McCabe. So we've had 3 instances where mall locks have been set on fire. 2 of them damaged the internal bag, which is about an $800 touch. And the last one we had actually damaged the wood framing of the actual mall lock. So that one's about a $3,000 touch. Our plan right now, as it relates to specifically Arthur and by the Optimistis playground, is we're going to put in a 45-gallon drum for the time being. Yeah, it's disappointing. There's no 2 ways about that. We think that some of our sanitizer might have been used as the accelerant too, which anyway, it's like the perfect storm as it relates to vandalism. But $3,800 for a trash receptacle that we could maintain as a 45-gallon drum, and we never had that. We didn't. Well, maybe Tom could comment, but I don't think it was as prevalent an issue. That's kind of where we're heading right now, and we'll reevaluate as time progresses. But yeah, that's not a good news story.
No, it's not. You're right. Thank you for that, Tom. Do you have anything else to add to that, or not really?
Yeah, in talks with the driver from Mulock, this isn't an isolated occurrence. That happens all over the place because the bins are there. Teenagers or kids or whoever decide they need a fire and they light them up. It's unfortunate. I thought we had a good thing and they look nice, but it's just a lot of money to put out for a garbage receptacle for 1 year's use. Really is all we got out of it.
Yeah, it is disappointing, and to have a local company that manufactures these units, it's too bad that we can't put that back in, and it's too bad that it's happening all over the place as well. Go ahead, Brian.
Just a question, as Tom indicated, I was just thinking it can't be an isolated incident. Does Moloch themselves, do they have any response to how you can mitigate some of this, the fire hazard and so on and so forth?
If I can answer that, we haven't discussed that with them. The only way would be to lock the bins at night so people can't get into them, but we're not going to go around and put a lock on at 10 o'clock at night and take it off at 6 in the morning. Just another cost issue. It'd be nice just to have them. They're nice looking receptacles, and maybe we need to try and spruce up our 45-gallon drums, I guess.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I have one more quick question, probably more for you and, for Tom and Mike. I know the Mount Forest Assessment Center is going to be closed. So I have, I guess, a two-parter. Just your thoughts on how well it was used. And then I just thought because this is, excuse me, because this is going to probably be put online, I thought maybe give a bit of a not to where the new assessment centers in our area are going to be opened up. So Tom, I guess my one question is how well did that run? And Mike, for you as well to answer that. I think I've heard nothing but positive news about it, but thought I'd get your opinions on it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Councilor McCabe. Yeah, as far as talking with the staff that were here that worked it, they were happy with us. We were happy with them. I think they had a lot of traffic through it. We walked through with just to view it for damages afterwards. There was really nothing. They did a good job of cleaning up when they left. We've disinfected since then, and we have a blood donor clinic tonight.
Excellent. That's a good point. I forgot about that. Probably have to get up to that. And Mike, if you could comment on where the new assessments are opening.
So the new assessment center is opening in the old Groves Hospital in Fergus.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor? Thank you very much. We have some items for considerations, the Mount Forest site plan and the Arthur site plan. Do you have any comments or questions, Deputy Mayor or Matt? Go ahead.
Yep, through you, Chair McCabe. This is just a follow-up to an item earlier in the year where we were going to get some site plans created. Yeah, we've had these are the site plans that we can use now when we're talking to user groups and kind of to get a better handle on everything that's going on the properties. They were done by different firms because, yeah, they were done by different firms, but yeah, just wanted to share kind of what those look like for committee and just to kind of close the loop as it relates to that report that went probably in February or January sort of time frame, and happy to answer any questions.
I guess I have one quick one. The one is extremely detailed. I love the elevations on it. And then in looking at the one for Arthur, I believe this is really quite outdated because the splash pad's not on it, or the child's diamond C is not placed or on this map as well.
Nope. Yeah, that's fair comment. So the Mount Forest one we paid for, consistent with what the approved budget was, and
okay.
And Triton Engineering did the Arthur one for free, so we can we can circle around with Triton and have them add those things. And fair comment, those are things that should be added. So yeah, they're slightly different. The BM Ross one is very detailed, but there was difference in the cost as it relates to getting those as well, I guess is maybe.
No, that's quite all right. Thanks for that, Matt. I think I could draw in the diamond in the splash pad, but no, I like to hear that didn't cost us that much. So that's very good. Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor, do you have any questions about the site plans at all? None? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the ICIP notification and investing in COVID-19 community resilience. I guess I'll pass that over to you and to Tom and to Mandy. Please.
Yep, through you, Chair McCabe. Yeah, so as it relates to the Arthur and Area Community Center application for ICIP Community Stream, Township was unsuccessful. I think we've got a list of a lot of good projects for the Arthur Community Center. So the activity wasn't without value, and the federal or provincial government has come out with an ICIP COVID stream. So staff is looking at some of the projects that were identified for us to put forward in that grant application. And I guess an undertone is that, you know, the piping under the Arthur Arena is still a going concern and needs to be addressed. As part of the 2020 capital budget, there was $1.1 million approved for that project. I think the intent of that 1.1 million was to support an ICIP application. But for sure, as a rec team, you're going to continue to see us putting forward the piping under the ice surface project, because that's something that there is a need for, and if we have a failure, that will ultimately ruin or limit our ability to have an ice surface there. So yeah, just more of an update with regards to that application for committee, and happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I think if we don't maybe move ahead on the ice surface there, I would hate to have an incident happen where all of a sudden our hand is forced to fix it, and probably be quite a bit more expensive. With regards to the projects, there's quite a small window, I think, of the start dates and end dates. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think I want to say September to December of 2021. I think we have till the end of December of 2021 to implement. And there probably is verbiage as it relates to when they will provide us notice if we're successful for those grants, but I don't think those grant applications are due till into the fall. I would maybe defer. Mandy might know those dates better than I do. Maybe.
Hi, Matt. Thank you. To you, Chair McCabe. I was on the website this morning looking up some additional information in regards to the application process. Under the how to apply section, it basically just says that applicants are to submit their projects to the province or territory. The province will prioritize the project and will submit those to Infrastructure Canada. Infrastructure Canada will review and validate, and then projects can begin and funding flows when costs are incurred. So it doesn't actually associate any timelines other than projects must be started no later than September 30th, 2021 and completed by December 31st, 2021.
Okay, thank you for that. Brian, any questions or any more comments? So I guess, Matt, just a quick side note, I guess we almost have to have shovel-ready projects on the go if we were to get going on this, or what's your idea?
Yeah, I think we have done a lot of the legwork as far as to put together conceptual plans that I think could be implemented. Like if we know by spring of 2021, I don't think it's unreasonable that we can implement some of those projects by December 2021. The lens of viewing those projects through a COVID lens, we have to, give consideration to, because some of the upgrades had to do with accessibility, and we'll have to give some consideration on which components or which aspects of the entire project fit into a COVID-19 type stream. And there's opportunity outside of, say, the Arthur Community Center. There might be things at pools that we need to do as a best practice going forward, given COVID-19, that I think staff is still in the midst of giving consideration to. But I don't think the planning or the design phase of these types of projects would necessarily limit us.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before I call for the vote?
Councillor McCabe, if I may, just a comment or maybe suggestion for the committee to consider. Not to suggest that the decisions around grant funding is a political environment, but it is. So this committee might recommend that the mayor and council send in a letter of regarding the disappointment with the unsuccessful nature of the ICIP application to our MP and MPP's office to let them know that, yeah, we understand that we weren't successful this time around, but we don't want them to lose sight of how important this particular project is to Arthur and area. Just a suggestion for the committee to consider.
No, I think that's a brilliant one, and you bring up a very good point that I almost missed, because this was an extremely solid application for this funding, and it is disappointing to see all the legwork that the team has done, and I would have to say a lot of it, I think, was done with Mandy, and of course everyone else on the team as well. But yeah, to see something this solid and check all the boxes kind of on the application and then to not have it go forward is disappointing. So would we need a resolution for that, or just a direction from our committee to council, Mike, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, typically it would be, direction to staff to prepare a letter for the mayor's signature on behalf of mayor and council to both the MP and the MPP's office. The other thing that I think we need to acknowledge too is that this application was a joint application with the Arthur Optimists. So some conversations going to need to happen with them that it was unsuccessful. This may change their plans that they have as it relates to community space that they've been looking at. So I think that's another piece that shouldn't be forgotten.
Yes, I had a chance to talk to some of the optimists to let them know that we weren't successful. So they were going to, as far as I know, at their next meeting, which I'm not sure when it's going to be or when it will be, to address that as their own service club. So I've not heard back from them on that end of things yet. So, alrighty, thank you for that. If there's no more questions, we will move on to see if there's any new business. I'll start with you, Deputy Mill. I have none. Matt? Or Tom or Mike or anyone?
Yeah, sorry, nothing on my end. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Tom?
Nothing, just waiting on word to put the ice in and try and get things back up to a little bit of normal.
Sounds good. I think we can all agree that it's be nice to get somewhat back to normal, or whatever the normal is going to be going forward. Mandy or Mike?
Nothing on my end. I just wanted to add that, that application for the ICIP was definitely a full team effort, including Adam, Tom, Matt, Mike, and the whole rec team. And yeah, just wanted to add that in.
And thank you for all of that help and contribution. I have nothing, so I have a recommendation that I can wait for about another 12 minutes to pull out if you want, Brian. That the Township of Wellington North Rec Parks and Leisure Committee, a meeting of September 1st, be adjourned at 9:18 a.m. All in favor? Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for making the time at the bright hour of 8:30 to get going.
Very good. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great day. Be safe, and look forward to seeing you guys again.
Excellent. Thank
Hey,
you.
everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.